Hello and welcome to episode number 10 of In Pursuit of Clarity, entitled Big Pharma, the Sacklers, and Culture Clash. It's no secret that the middle class in this nation has been decimated in recent decades, and this has led to an epidemic of broken families, depression, and suicide. The more active I've become in this community, the more I've been exposed to some truly heartbreaking stories. What if the same forces that orchestrated this devastation of the middle class had also found a means to siphon still more profit off of those desperate individuals that had fallen through the cracks? What if this method of profit extraction was taking an unprecedented toll on lives, taking those most vulnerable, those in the deepest pain, and providing them poison in exchange for their last dollars as they spiral into oblivion? Most of you listening are a product of the broader high-trust culture that is the Western world, from families shaped by morals, ethics, and virtues cultivated over the millennia by those who came before us, as a gift of sorts handed down to help us maintain happy and healthy societies and create frameworks within which we might live fulfilling lives. Most of us lack the mental wiring to even comprehend a malevolence and insatiable greed this pronounced. And I mean this literally. Scores of those not yet initiated down that red pill path can't fathom that such things could actually occur in our world. Our brains lack the contextual reference points. They just seem too disgusting, too monstrous, and we struggle to picture the type of person that might engage in such behavior and still sleep at night. Introducing Purdue Pharmaceuticals and the Sackler family, the pioneering free market capitalists that managed to find and create enough loopholes in our laws and regulations to spawn a multi-billion-dollar industry in just a handful of years, becoming one of the wealthiest families in the world by finding unique and novel methods of convincing physicians to overprescribe opiates to their patients. It's now a well-known fact that major drug companies now send out, quote, representatives, end quote, who then receive bonuses based on how many prescriptions are written by the physicians they visit, creating an incentivization structure to create new addicts and stoke the fires of existing addictions. These representatives are often attractive women, and these attractive women not only offer financial bribes, but often literally prostitute themselves in exchange for a promise to dutifully deal the drugs of their bosses. Because these companies and those that work within them from the top down have access to unlimited wealth, allowing them to dress better than the average drug dealer on your street corner, we tend to consider them a different breed. And as a society, we've not only condoned their actions, but rewarded them to the highest degree. But are they a different breed? Or are they simply criminals of a different order of magnitude, with enough power to get away with their crimes? In the blink of an eye, these actions can reshape entire nations, as evidenced by the skyrocketing rates of addiction and overdose deaths in the US. Purdue now has plans to expand into nearly every major nation across all continents, saying, quote, we're only getting started, end quote. They've now bought up Rhodes Pharma, the generic brand, and have even patented the drug used to wean addicts from opiates, to complete their monopolistic stranglehold. The next time you hear someone touting the merits of free market capitalism, I'd like you to remember Purdue Pharma, and the Sacklers in particular, and recognize that as long as we're enduring this culture clash, and as long as our nations contain individuals of this type, our economic system, as currently constituted, can only serve to destroy us. With the media providing cover fire and the legal system largely subverted, there's nothing but reward paired off against little to no risk for those more than willing to go to any lengths to make an easy dollar. Our economic construct is failing because there's simply no counterforce to the subversive effects of corrupt money. There no longer exists the incentives to stand up against these forces, whereas the financial incentives to work with them and become enablers are immense. When you hear little Benji Shapiro claiming that the only healthy and happy world is one in which an economic system is the foremost governing structure in our lives, remember that he's not arguing for the best interests of you or I or the nation at large, but rather arguing for the interests of his own element. Because here's the thing, something I'm certain he knows but will never give voice to. We can make nearly infinite small tweaks and adjustments to our legal or regulatory frameworks to prevent this or that specific abuse or exploited loophole, but they will always find or create another loophole. It's an endless game of whack-a-mole, in which the only group that wins is that which is most willing to play the game without ethical restraints, not hemmed in by a conscience or a desire to do right by the nation at large. In fact, the very notion of considering the well-being of individuals, peoples, or nations relative to their economic bottom line would be something they'd find laughable, an idea just as foreign to them as their perspectives and worldviews are foreign to us. Might it be that a group whose very holy book refers to other peoples as cattle fit only for the yoke of servitude, and whose history of successful deception and manipulation of high-trust cultures has convinced them that they're somehow superior beings, aren't exactly the best people to usher into positions of unrivaled power and influence in our nations? Might it be that there's a deep culture clash at play here, one which needs to be recognized and discussed with intellectual honesty to avoid a dystopian future of pain and suffering and unhappiness on an almost unimaginable scale? We were sold on the idea of capitalism as currently practiced because it was framed as a construct rewarding merit and hard work. The idea that anyone with a great idea and the will to see it through might succeed wildly, and in doing so might help the nation at large, creating some win-win situation pushing society forward. The reality is proving to be much different. Those who most easily win within this framework are those with the fewest moral and ethical standards, those whose rulebook governing their behavior contains the fewest lines, those who place the fewest restraints on themselves. It's a mad dash for the easy dollar, which equates to a race to the bottom, and those least willing to play this game will get left behind. Still more, those least willing to play this game will be blocked and shut out of the game whenever possible, as people tend to promote their own. What this means is that with each passing year, our system becomes more deeply corrupted. What happens when individuals like those behind Purdue's worst and most self-serving behaviors don't just make up a significant portion of our financial, political, and influential elite, but come to completely and totally monopolize these arenas without exceptions? What type of world do you suspect this might usher in, not just for our own people and culture, but for humanity at large? What happens when a world is convinced to kill off the father and install a smarmy and malevolent merchant in his place? How about we don't sit lazily by and find out the answer to this question? Thanks for listening.
This is the end, beautiful friend. This is the end, my